Hello everyone and welcome to the MLG Korean Online Qualifiers. I of course am Nursky, and joining me the very knowledgeable Tumba. How's it going, Tumba?
Great, Nursk. Good to be with you as always, Nursky. It's been a little while, I think, since MLG Orlando. Since we casted together, so I've been really looking forward to it and excited about today.
Tell me about it. Plus we have some awesome players. So how about you intro them for us, Tumba?
Sure thing, Nursky. Well, we've got Twilight Boyu, aka Oz, spawning as the blue Protoss, and of course playing against the man that really needs no introduction, the Emperor Slayer's Boxer in the red.
And we are going to be on the map, MLG Dual Site, which is a map that I think I definitely like this map. I think it's got some pretty cool features. You could argue it's a little favorable one way or the other for some matchups, but I think overall it's a pretty good map. Pretty large two-player map. Lots of places to take bases. So it should be a good matchup. And Oz and Boxer, these guys are both excellent players. Both played Brood War. In case any of you guys aren't aware of exactly who Oz is, played as Secret in Brood War. Was on the team Heite. I want to say it's Heite, Sparky Z. I don't know. I sometimes kill some of the names. I gotta be honest.
Yeah, some of the Brood War names the teams were a little difficult to pronounce, of course.
Yeah.
Simplified now a little bit more.
Just in general, I think player names and team names sometimes can be a little bit confusing to pronounce.
Absolutely, like Slayers. Very simple. I like that. That works, you know. FXO. Okay, that works. So, we can pronounce those. Makes it much easier. As you can see, Boxer, Rax finished. And it looks like Oz, though, here, Narsky, looks like Oz wants to open with a little one-gate fast expand, possibly.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. Sorry to interrupt you there, bud.
Yeah, no, please.
But, yeah, see, he has pulled off his assimilator. You can see on the screen, so definitely going to probably be a one-gate into Nexus. I think you are spot on there, buddy.
Yep. And there goes the probe. So going to plant down a Nexus. So you followed Oz a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
How about what are some of the things indicative of Oz's play style?
Well, one of the big things Oz is actually, I guess, somewhat known for, as we see, looks like Boxer's going to be taking a 1-Rax into expand. No surprise there without any gas early on. He actually was one of the first people to start putting together using High Templar with Warp Prisms to kind of protect the High Templar from EMPs from Terran, and used it to pretty good effect. So Oz isn't the type of player who's going to just, you know, be more like a robot and not think for himself. He actually will innovate some of his own stuff into the game. Not that throwing High Templar into a transport's anything new. Anybody familiar with Brood War would know that a lot of Protoss used to use dropships with Templar to great effect, but something
it's funny you mentioned that, though, because actually, come to think of it, in SE2, typically we don't see a lot of quote-unquote juggling with Warp Prisms and High Templar, although you would think you would. Players like Neck Sickness, though, maybe a little less well-known, sort of popularizing the style a lot more here lately with Protoss, so I wouldn't be surprised if through the 2012 season we see a lot more of that. Of course, both players have Code S and Code A experience in the GSL. I believe both were eliminated from GSL in January. Both also eliminated at MLG Providence.
Yeah, both players very strong players, but I mean, being a strong player and winning games of StarCraft 2 are two entirely different things. I mean, it's just so difficult sometimes to win games. The competition of a lot of fields is just so good. And it's just really tough to win games. I mean, you can lose about a million different ways, and there's only a couple of good ways to win in every matchup. And, you know, not everybody's as strong in every matchup as others. So, you know, a lot of times it can just be a little rough to try and win tournaments, especially when there's so much competition. Foreigners have caught up with Koreans quite a bit. Now, I know there's always that little asterisk that guys like Flash and Jaedong and Bisu haven't come over to StarCraft 2 yet. But, I mean, overall, there's still a lot of really strong players who were really good in Brood War, who who have come over to StarCraft 2, and Fortnite's caught up a lot, which has just made the scene even that much harder. But as we can see right now, we actually have Boxer moving out here, got a fast concussive shell, and going to be moving out with a single SCV and a pack of Marines and a handful of Marauders here to try and pressure the front of Oz here.
Yeah, he was able to snipe the proxy pylon, and he just kept on trucking. Nursky was heading right, made a beeline right for Oz. I think sees the units are out and ready for him. A lot of sentries saved up, so he's going to hightail it back here.
Don't mind that play at all by Boxer, though. Sometimes, even if you don't attack your opponent, just moving forward like you're going to attack your opponent can force a distraction of your opponent, maybe force him to get worried, throw out a couple of extra units past what he maybe would have normally made at that time, whereas he might have been more focused on his macro. I mean, you want to create little slip-ups in your opponent as much as possible, and the only way you're really going to do that is to distract them enough to keep them focused, not on just sitting back, macroing up, and doing their build, but you got to put some pressure on them every now and then. And really, I think that's the difference a lot of times between a good player and a great player, is their ability to multitask, force mistakes out of their opponents, and create a situation that's favorable for them.
Quite right, my friend. And you can see Stim about 3/4 of the way up. Proxy Pylon will finish. Boxer has not spotted it. Boxer, one of the best players at scouting a map, though, will always have an SCV or a Marine active around the map, and as I say that, actually SCV is going to get a good look here. Will find the proxy pylon. Boxer making me look smart for a minute there. That can be difficult to do, but if anybody's up to it, Boxer is. So a very manner of him to send that SCV, as I was commentating. Gonna go ahead and take that out. So Oz having a bit of a hard time thus far, Nurse, is establishing any forward ground on Boxer's side of the map. I do remember when Boxer played last year, I believe it was Anaheim, that was one of the things he did so very well against Sheth. On this map, actually, Sheth kept trying to ninja expansions, but man, Boxer was everywhere, and you can see parking that SCV to the north wants to make sure know exactly when Oz takes his third.
Yeah, I agree with you, but Oz is going to be pushing out here. Looks like he wants to try and put a little bit of pressure on Boxer. Been a while since he's actually been around the front of Boxer's base, so I'm sure he wants to keep track of what Boxer's up to. Right now, income-wise, very even with both players. You see Boxer floating the obligatory scouting factory out onto the map. But we have Blink and we have a Dark Shrine on the way here for Oz, so it looks like he's going to maybe be going with a little DT play maybe to try and secure his third. Now, honestly, haven't seen this, I think, enough with players making a transition to Dark Templars around that 2-base look. I mean, it's nothing new for people to do that, but a lot of people will always go for that, you know, 1-base Dark Shrine, try and expand, something where it's really obvious. I think these delayed DT times can be a lot more potent, as we see Oz actually just scattering the map with pylons all over the place right now. But
Boxer finding them as quickly as Oz can scatter them. Man, I cannot get over his scouting. You know, it really did. And I have to bring it up last time I'm going to talk about it, though. That Boxer Chef game really left an impression on me, because I saw just how active Boxer is around the map, and just unbelievable. You know, he's a very information-based player, where he will gather the information necessary and sort of adapt on the fly, which is one of the things that I feel is so very important. And not all players fit that style, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So, definitely. But yeah, no, you mentioned the DT, the Dark Shrine, and you know, you also see the double robo down, which is very popular. I think one of the things, though, Nursky, Protoss have been having a problem with DTs, especially against the competent Terran. You saw Huck having problems with Encodes against Supernova.
Oh, hold on for just a second, Tumbo, because we have a DT in the base here, killing up some SCVs right now. Already up to 4 kills over there in the main. One of the natural gets cleaned up almost immediately. Doesn't kill hardly anything at all. So Boxer really on top of that, had a couple of scans saved. Was pretty much safe there from those DTs, but definitely had to make mention of it. But that slight distraction there by Oz, allowing him to get his third up, so buying himself a little bit of distraction to hold Boxer back in his base for a second and take that third. So getting some use out of those DTs, even though he didn't do a whole lot of damage.
Well, yeah, and actually, you know what? I'm glad you interrupted, because that's exactly what I was trying to articulate, is the fact that Protoss against Terran tend to have a bit of a hard time using DTs to great effect. As I was saying, Huck having a bit of a problem, I believe, because against Supernova, in his Code S group stage, because it's one of the things where it becomes difficult to factor in how many scans are saved up. I mean, you are cutting into the economy by making them waste energy, not being able to have mules. But you know, as I say this, here comes Boxer
push out
with a scary army.
Yeah, Boxer with a very big army. Ooh, really good feedbacks there, going down a couple of Boxer's ghosts, so to try and limit some of the energy on those ghosts. Storm goes down, kind of a defensive storm, it looks like, to cover Oz's retreat. And it looks like Oz is going to actually just pull back for now. Boxer really wants to get aggressive right now, though. You can really tell he does not want to let Oz get a secure third too easily. Archon getting morphed in here. Does have a couple of High Templar still with Storm and feedback available. But here comes a couple of Ghosts. Going to be sneaking into the army. Snipes one of the Templar out. Could get a big EMP down. Now sniping more of the Templar. The Ghost actually just hanging back, sniping the Templar. Oz, though, going to have some awesome force fields go down. Traps pretty much Boxer's entire army, and now Boxer actually not paying attention. Has some units actually back in the back, not even engaging here. Now they come into the fight, but it looks like Oz is going to hold here and is going to clean up Boxer's entire force. Huge loss there by Boxer, and Oz is probably going to look to get pretty aggressive here. Now taking out several of the ghosts as they are low on energy. Their cloak running out. These charge locks just running them down. Boxer could be in some trouble here, Tombo.
No, absolutely could, as you saw. Just getting decimated there by Oz. Oz, again, great unit control, is going to find this third immediately and start to do work on it. And forcing a liftoff here. And I'm not sure how Boxer can get back into this. I mean, he's got a small army with medevac here, but DT coming in to play, going right after those ghosts. Obviously, Scan going down, kills that DT, and I was saying actually Huck versus Supernova, and that's not correct. I meant Huck and Supernova, both having issues.
Hold on, though, because here we go. Oz is going to not push in. Now he pushes into the base, going after all of the rest of Boxer's units. Good Storm goes down on a lot of the Marines there. We see right now Boxer doing a very good job splitting all of his Marines to try and prevent the Storm damage there. A couple of units getting picked off at the top here. Not sure if Boxer's going to be able to hold. We see him hold positioning his SCVs to try and make it more difficult for Oz to pick off his SCVs. But Boxer's army right now dwindling, 118 supply to just 54, 52 dropping down. Don't know if Boxer's going to be able to hold on here, Tumba.
Nope. There goes or here comes the GG rather, and that's going to be it for Boxer in game one here. So Nursk, Oz really just sitting back in the pocket waiting for Boxer to come to him. And you know, Boxer typically doesn't engage, I don't feel, unless he thinks he's got the advantage. I think he thought he could win that fight, but just didn't come out his way.
Yeah, I think Boxer realized that that third was probably going up as those DTs were coming into his base. Wanted to try and force an attack there, counter back into Oz after he did those DTs. And the DTs didn't do a lot of damage. And a lot of times when a Protoss player will go for a play, a tech type of play like DTs or something like that, they might have to sacrifice a little bit of army when they do that. And a lot of times you can catch them maybe a little bit weaker than usual and get in there and maybe take out that third or something like that, so long as you can pretty well hard counter the DTs. Well, Boxer pretty much did that, caught the DTs off guard, or caught, I should say, the DTs red-handed, so to speak, and went immediately for the quick attack, you know, realizing that Oz had just teched to these DTs, had built a couple of DTs, but Oz only really built 2 DTs, and then immediately was working on his Templars instead. And Oz was prepared for it, had Storms ready. Boxer moved in. Oz had some brilliant force fields over near his third in this location. I'm actually looking at the map, the game right now as it's ended here. Really good force fields over in this area. Trapped basically all of Boxer's forces. And Boxer at that point just kind of fell completely apart. Had units reinforcing in. Didn't pull him into the battle right away. Not that I think it would have made a difference because those force fields were just so good. And Oz takes out Boxer's entire force and then moves on to win the game. I think also worth noting is Boxer's upgrades were actually quite a bit behind Oz's that game, which played out huge. Boxer was just 1-0 as he moved out to do that attack, where Oz was already up to, I think, 3-2 or 2-2 at the bare minimum. It had
Double
2 armor,
forge,
actually.
Man. Double Forge, pretty good. So there you have it. Going to wrap up Game 1 of the series. What do you say we get into Game 2?
I think that is a great idea, Tumble. Let's move over to that Game 2.